Hi, everybody. I have taken this opportunity to weigh in on a very important issue. I had to pick my battles really this year because some of the most incredibly obvious disinformation is coming out. Plus, I don't think we have any real resolution with any government disclosure or NASA disclosure or any other distraction that we have. And sometimes we have to admit, whether we like it or not, that other countries are doing something. And they're doing it because they have problems with UFOs over their airfields. They have, even China had to shut down its airport one time. So the thing is that we have to address that ufology is international. It's international. And the only way that I can keep track of anything is field research, which means I need to go there and see what's going on. So I see that, in the past, countries like Ireland, England, Brazil have released its files, but it never gets mentioned in our Congress. It never gets mentioned in the United States. Like, they release their UFO files. They've got a bunch of problems over, military bases and everything. But it doesn't matter because if we don't do anything here, it's not existent. Well, I spoke in Mexico City at a conference in July and met a pilot from Peru that years ago shot 40 rounds of ammunition at a UFO, which got the attention of the Peruvian Air Force. Of course, I hate to use the national security card because I have to use it when we're talking seriously and people start laughing. I have to use it then because when we have real data, like the Peruvian pilot shooting rounds, or when I interview Martin Torres in my book, Connecting the Dots, which, is just coming out, reissued, and he tells me in 1957, he shot rounds at a UFO over the UK, and he personally tells me this, then I need to pay attention. I need to pay attention to what these real whistleblowers, and they've been coming around forever. I mean, we're talking about whistleblowers of today. What about Colonel Corso in 1997? What about the Honorable Paul Hellyer? What about Clifford Stone? What about Sergeant Major Robert Dean that was at NATO? What about all these guys? I mean, so we just throw them in the basket and say, well, they don't count because only somebody, one person that comes out in Washington in 2023 is a superstar. Come on, there's so much data, and we need to work with data, not opinion, which brings me to the current reason I'm even bothering to speak. I'm so disgusted with the way we deal with things as researchers that I just prefer to stay in the background. I keep saying to everybody, we'll just watch, our own people will debunk our own people, and that's what keeps the secret secret. Now, all of a sudden, people are listening to Bob Lazar. Come on, what's wrong with people? They need to look at the data. And if it's not in your language, then try to figure it out. Try to find out who knows what the real story is. Because I'm watching most disgusting display of bias, prejudice, and all kinds of ignorant comments on the event in Mexico City. Mexico City Congress, not a conference, not Jaime Maussan's conference, but the Congress, just like we have a Congress. The room of deputies, we have one in Italy called La Camera dei Deputati too. I mean, it's all the representatives of the Congress that are there listening to testimony. It's not a UFO conference. And one of the things that happened on the 13th of September was that it was a historical occasion. And nobody bothered to look at who was present. Nobody bothered to look at the official invitation which I'm going to post on my website because this has got to stop. We have to look at the data, not your opinion of people. So who was invited was Avi Lev. So let's debunk Avi Lev. And also a pilot named Julius Darush, and he represents an association of pilots. Enrique Verrego was a air traffic controller. Okay, so we have Robert Salas mentioned there. I didn't actually see him. Ryan Graves, who goes there to testify, all expenses paid, comes back, goes on Facebook with Leslie Kean and says it was a stunt in a conference, a government conference. How can you call it a stunt? Because the University of Mexico presented their results with, I guess, carbon dating. We can argue carbon dating and DNA. I guess we can argue that. I guess we can argue scientific proof. Let's go argue that. Now, if you argue that, you better be a scientist. Can't be somebody off the street. Go and argue their carbon dating method. I happen to be in Mexico City, and I happen to speak to the people from the university, and they have some of our metal that I brought there to analyze. But the problem that people don't understand is the university doesn't take this on because it feels like it. It's one of the most unpopular things in the planet to attach your name. I mean, Harvard's not going to do it. I'll bet you all kinds of money. Harvard is not going to be the first university to claim UFOs. But this university was paid heavily because Jaime Maussan is able to sponsor things. So he's the hero to look at the real composition of these mummies. Yes, they are 1,000 years old. No, it's probably 30% of the DNA is probably not ET, but they can't explain 30% of the DNA. Get a clue. So if they can't explain 30% of the DNA, we have some scientific data. It doesn't matter where it comes from or if you can't understand the language. So it costs a lot of money just to analyze the metal that I brought down years ago. Cost $5,000. Well, I don't have that money, but Jaime volunteered to do it. He will pay for the analysis. If it's not real, it's not real. If it's real, what do? Sweep it under the rug? So this Congress had real scientific analysis from a reputable university that I met with the people because I want them to do some stuff for us. And because Ryan Graves saw mummies and it went back and said it was a stunt, I don't know what part of it was a stunt. Avi Lev, Robert Salas, these poor pilots that appeared, the air traffic controller that is courageous, what part of it is a stunt? Explain to me that. So within minutes, there's even Michael Vaillant from Japan. Japan happens to be the new NES or the old NES, which is the French space agency with a civilian agency that are looking into UFOs. He's part of Japan. And then there was the Honorable Yoshi, and I can't pronounce his last name, from Japan. I'm going to put everybody who was there listed. So this man from Japan, who was part of the disclosure in the government, it's part of a stunt. By saying it's part of a stunt, you discredited all these people, all of these people, the Japanese man, the air traffic controller, the two pilots, the man from France, and Avi Lev, and of course, yourself. I don't understand the way this works. Somebody explain it to me because it is so inane, it is so ignorant that I can't understand how you can have a country try to do a disclosure and then the United States come back and yell hoax, hoax, hoax without even looking at the carbon dating or the DNA evidence. I don't care who studied it 2 years ago. You better understand Spanish and you better have the same kind of testing Because if you don't have the same kind of testing, guessing an opinion is not data. So one of my criticisms that people have come after me saying, well, we don't have to understand Spanish. English is spoken around the world. Well, that's true. But I can give you an example of a piece we had from Dr. Michael Wolff-Cruvant that was 99% silicon, and the spikes were not like anything that the University of Siena in Italy had ever seen. They actually did an incredible job analyze it. We have all the data, but who speaks Italian? And is it less valid because of the language? So we had printed that in our magazine in Italy. But if I ever analyzed it here, in fact, I think he gave a piece to somebody that said, oh, that's a piece of silicon you can buy, opinion, over on the 5 and 10 cent store. That was what came back to me. Anything that we get has to go to a university, but maybe not a top level one, because they're not going to risk their, I mean, what big university is going to risk their reputation on UFOs? So the fact that one from Mexico did means that maybe what we should be doing, and I'm suggesting this, is saying bravo to Jaime Maussan for financing and sponsoring. Bravo to the pilots who came forth. Bravo to the university whose scientists in Spanish talked about carbon dating and DNA. And let's stop this ignorance, because it keeps the secret secret. It's people's opinions. The things that I've seen on Facebook are so ignorant and so lacking in data. I can't speak about anything I don't know. I'm not going to talk about crop circles or anything else. I've never studied them. I can't do opinion. But I was in Mexico City, and I did see the workings of these professors, and I did see the seriousness of wanting the truth. And I did see the pilot that spoke, the Peruvian pilot that spoke on the stage with me, because they're all concerned, because this is not entertainment. This is trying to get to the truth in a scientific way, in an intelligent way, and in a non-biased way. And maybe we could admit the disclosure is not going to happen from here. Anyway, I like to think as the planet as one species, one heart, one commitment, and it doesn't matter what country it comes out of. Let's all keep looking for the truth in an intelligent, educational way. And it doesn't come from YouTube or anybody's opinions on Facebook. Please read the report that I'm going to put on my website. Read who was involved in the official program of the Mexican government. And let's stop this. You know, I don't usually say very much, but since I was involved, since I did go down there, since I did speak to the people, since I do trust the university professors, I do trust the science that comes out of that university, then I have to support it and get off bashing people like Jaime Maussan. He happens to have an operation that can afford to work with this. I was in his offices. He employs over 20 people, and he gets enough on the news. And it isn't all UFOs. It's climate change. It's all kinds of things that happen, like earthquakes and changes in our structure. It is a service he's providing. It's just not in our language. And when I see this, when I see that there's real research going on there, that there's a sincerity there, and there's a willingness to get to the truth, it's very discouraging that we can't all come together. And coming together, we can get to the truth. Debunking and being rude and just throwing words out there, We're the ones that are keeping it secret, not the government. So may I encourage everybody to do their own research and not base anything on empty opinion. And let's hope this year is one where we will have some kind of disclosure.